I grew up born and raised in Gary, Indiana, and still live there, still at home. And just, yeah, grew up in Gary, Indiana, which is it's an industrial town because that's where one of the biggest steel mills in the world is, U.S. Steel, where I've also worked. I worked there for 4 years. Actually, I worked there before I decided to take music on full time. So yeah, that's where, yep, Gary, Indiana's home, born and raised. Oh man, my mom and dad introduced me. My father is like a jazz fanatic, so jazz. I listen to like the older R&B, and I listen to like the disco era. Very much Earth, Wind and Fire. I listen to Nina Simone. My mother loved Phoebe Snow, so it was like a different, very like varieties. Of different, just like with different artists. And I had an aunt who listened to Elton John like a lot, so it was just like this. It was kind of all over the place. So yeah, I listened to like a lot of different music, and then even more so as I got older. Yeah. None. None. I don't play any instruments. I get that question all the time. I just, I was blessed with an ear for music, and I didn't realize it until I was in my early 20s. So, 19 exact, to be exact, but when I discovered that, oh, this is really something that okay, I'm not too shabby at this, I was in my early 20s, yes. But yeah, I don't play an instrument. Most people think I do. They think I either play a drum or, yeah, some percussion instrument, but no, I didn't. I didn't go to school for music or anything. I was actually, when I discovered it, I was actually in a kind of in a bad place in my life at the time because I had dropped out of college. And so I was kind of running from myself, or at least I thought at the time. I was running from myself, but what was actually happening was I was discovering who I was. And don't get me wrong, I didn't take the best path to go about it, but everything that I went through made me the person I am now. So like all of that was really important that I went through those bumps in the road and those obstacles. But yeah, like when I was attending Purdue University at the time, and I didn't like my major. I was a double major with a minor, and I didn't like it. And so I started skipping classes and going to the library and teaching myself FL Studios, which is Fruity Loops, but they call it FL Studios now. But was teaching myself a music program, and it was a love-hate relationship. It was like I hated it because I couldn't, it required patience and the things that I wanted to learn how to do. Like, I couldn't do it. Of course, I was just starting out, but I loved it because I had a passion for it and I knew what I wanted to do. And it was just a matter of practice, 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 practice. And yeah, eventually, I guess it kind of paid off. Oh, phew. So I started making music at the end of, I always say, I think it was it was at the end of 2007, I believe I started. And it took me 3 years to get to the place where I said, okay, I'm comfortable doing this, but now I'm comfortable doing it. I know it was like I know how to do it, but now it's time to evolve it so that I have my own signature sound. And the first track that I discovered that my signature was a track I made called Erotic Heat. And that was where I said, okay. Because like everyone, and I was scared to put it out. And I had put it out on a Facebook video, or just the audio. And the feedback I got from it was just like, I've never heard anything like this. This is amazing. Oh my God, And I ended up on on a compilation based out of Brighton Planet Moo Records had cut a compilation called Bangs and Works Volume 2, and they put that record and another record of mine called Asylum on there, and that's how, yeah, this whole ball got rolling. I love movement. I've always loved movement. Um, and dance, and not just movement as in dance, but movement like from the way that a person moves, blinks their eyes, to the way that they move their hands, to me has a sound. So I've always like, my mother told me, I remember she used to make book trailers for authors, and she wanted me to do the music. So I was discovering that I was, getting kind of good at this. And she's like, and she did too. And she's like, I want you to do a book trailer for me. And I said, I'm not a composer. That's not what, because I thought at that time, I really was just like kind of making like footwork music, which is based out of Chicago. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm a footwork artist. And she's like, no, you're a composer. I had made a book trailer for her, and she listened to the track and she said, no, you're a composer. And then there was a friend of hers. She was a co-author, one of her author friends, and she also needed a book trailer. And the guy who was her agent was like, oh, whoever made the music, who's the composer of the music. And he was talking to my mom about it. He said, oh, my daughter just produces music. He said, no, this is different. This is she's doing composition. This is not just her creating music. No, this is well thought out. And I didn't want to accept that at the time. I did not accept it. I was like, I'm not a composer. Like, I really did not accept it because I don't even know why. I can't begin to tell you why. But yeah, I didn't accept it at the time. I didn't accept it until I walked into Sadler's Wells and I did the show with Wayne McGregor, and we premiered Autobiography, and on my dressing room door it says composer Jlin Patton, and that's when I actually accepted it. That was in 2017. The first time I heard one play was in a movie, and I want to say it was either House of Flying Daggers or it was the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It was one of the two. But that was when I first discovered string was like really, I said, this is a powerful, string is such a powerful, just instrument, the instrumentation of string and the way it can be arranged and the just infinite possibilities with it. I was like, oh my God. Because most people are kind of like, oh, bass, 808s, and everybody drum, they're looking for this heavy thing. But no, string has such an impact that no other instrument does. And the more I create, the more I discover that. Yeah, so I am pro string for sure. I have a thing that anything I touch, I should be able to adapt to. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a ballet or whether it's writing for an orchestra or a quartet or a symphony or whatever, or if it's a runway show for Paris. It doesn't matter or a movie score. If I touch it, I should be able to adapt. I am an artist that believes in versatility. So I think my music is versatile because and there's sometimes such drastic changes from a score that is maybe probably 113 BPM to something that I've done that's 161 BPM. That's a complete dance track. So all of those things are important. I mean, I've done, soundscapes and just atmospheric, just completely, just different variations of sounds over time. So I think probably in them listening to that, they probably just were like, oh, okay, that wouldn't be I don't think that's too bad of an idea. Yeah, I love versatility. I never like to sit in the same spot. I love whatever the next challenge is. I think it's, I'm just finished a piece where I worked on a commission for a video game. So I love just being all over the place. I never just want to be concentrated in one area. Yeah, I love the arts, so yeah. I want them to stretch this as far as they can take it. I don't want this to just be, I wrote A and B and then you played A and B. No. I wrote A and B and you discovered C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, and then you went and then you rearranged it and you made your own thing with it. I'm that person. So like when I'm writing, I'm always writing in that direction. I think to the robotics of, like if I made something and then for them to play it exactly, I think that no, like do it your way. Like I love, please, I want to hear what is your version of what that is, So I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm all for let's take it to the next level. Yeah. it's the most infinite feeling in the world. It strikes you so hard. It is a feeling like no other. It is your adrenaline. It's like something with you become so euphoric in that moment, in that instant second. That's how I know. When I know it's like, oh, the euphoria I feel is just like there is no match to that feeling. And when you create, when you love to create like I do, and like you love to write, there's nothing that can match that feeling. No. Yeah, you know it when you feel it. And yeah, you know it. To be cognizant about what they put out into the atmosphere. Yeah. Be cognizant about what you create. That's, whether it's conceptualized or it's abstract, but be cognizant about what you put in the atmosphere. I try to be very cognizant about what I put out, or before any piece I have ever written, I always research before I write it. So, just being aware, you're not just saying, oh, this sounds good, so I just threw it out there, but you actually cognizant about what it is that you're writing. So I would definitely say, yeah, just be aware, yeah. I have these moments where I love math. I love math, the subject of math. So to relax sometimes when I feel unnerved, I just practice math problems. Whether it's algebra 2, calculus, trig, I just practice math problems. It makes me calm down. So I'm always kind of abreast mathematically of what's going on because I use it like a relaxation, which sounds so nerdy, I'm sure, but yeah. So I'm always, that's kind of my go-to. Yeah. Be great and don't hold back. Play it to do it your way. Don't do it my way. Don't play it the way, how would you do it? Make it your own. That's what I would say. Make it your own. Yeah. A lot of people have this idea in their head that you look at a person's success and you look at their accolades and you're looking at the kind of like the top of water. If you look at sometimes like with water, there's an iceberg that's sitting on top. But what's really important is that big thick piece of ice you don't see at the bottom, and that's what makes you that piece. That's what's so that's what's important. And people worry about failing, and they're like, oh, this didn't happen. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. You are exactly where you're supposed to be in your life. And you have to trust that process. Even for me, it's hard. It is hard. But even you have to trust that process. You have to go through those things. You have to go through those obstacles because that is more important than your success. Those failures, by what society says, that's not failing. Failing is when you make the conscious decision to stop. That is failing. But when you are trying and it doesn't work out the way you thought it should, that's just you taking steps towards where you're supposed to be. That's not failing. Failing is a conscious decision of just you quitting. That's it. So that's what I would want to say. Yeah.